The emergency call came through at midnight. Dr. Jiwan was already exhausted from a 12-hour shift at the Colony Medical Center, but the voice on the comm was urgent and shaking. Something had crashed in the western wilderness. Something big. Jiwan grabbed his emergency kit and ran to the transport vehicle. The night air of New Meridian was cold and sharp. Above him, 2 moons hung in the purple sky, casting strange shadows across the human settlement. He had been on this colony world for 3 years now, treating miners, farmers, and the occasional accident victim. Nothing had prepared him for tonight. The crash site was chaos. Smoke rose from a crater where twisted metal glowed red-hot. Colony security had already surrounded the area with lights and weapons. Jiwan pushed past them, his medical authority giving him access. Governor Sujin stood near the edge, her face hard and suspicious. "Stay back, doctor," she warned. "We don't know what's in there." But Jiwan had already seen movement in the wreckage. Something alive. Something that needed help. He ignored the governor and climbed down into the smoking crater. The heat hit him immediately, but he pressed forward. Medical oath came before caution. Then he saw her. She was lying twisted among the debris, and Jiwan's breath caught in his throat. She looked almost human, but not quite. Silver fur covered her arms and legs in patches. 2 large ears, like a wolf's, lay flat against her head. A tail, matted with blood, curled around her body. Her face was pale, too pale, and blue blood seeped from multiple wounds. "Dear God," Jiwan whispered. An alien. A real alien. And she was dying. He dropped to his knees beside her and began his assessment. Her breathing was shallow and fast. Her pulse, when he found it on her neck, was weak and irregular. Wait. No. There was another pulse point on the other side of her chest. 2 hearts. She had 2 hearts. And both were failing. "Get a stretcher down here," Jiwan shouted up to the security team. "Now," Governor Sujin's voice echoed down. "Doctor, protocol requires quarantine of all unknown xenobiological threats. Step away from the creature." Unclam. "With creature? She's not a creature. She's a patient," Jiwan shot back. The governor's face appeared at the crater's edge, lit by harsh spotlights. "That's an order, Dr. Jiwan. We will contain the alien and decide what to do with it later." Jiwan looked down at the wolf girl's face. Her eyes were closed, but her expression was twisted in pain. One of her ears twitched slightly. She was aware. Even if unconscious, she was suffering, and in that moment, Jiwan made a decision that would change everything. "No," he said simply. The word hung in the air. Security officers shifted nervously. No one said no to the governor. But Jiwan had not become a doctor to follow orders that would kill his patients. He had not spent 8 years studying medicine to watch someone die because of fear and bureaucracy. Before anyone could stop him, Jiwan activated his personal comm and called his friend Do-yoon. "I need the private clinic opened. Emergency. Don't ask questions." I waited. I would be the personal time, and maybe another 2 time. Then he lifted the alien girl as carefully as he could. She was lighter than he expected, her body lean and muscled beneath the fur. A soft whimper escaped her lips, breaking his heart. He carried her out of the crater, past the shocked security officers, past the furious governor. "You're finished on this colony, doctor," Sujin called after him. "You're violating every first contact protocol we have." "Then write it in my termination papers," Jiwan replied, not looking back. He loaded the wolf girl into his vehicle and drove through the night to his private clinic on the edge of the settlement. Do-yoon was already there, having opened the doors and powered up the medical equipment. His friend's eyes went wide when he saw what Jiwan carried. "Is that—" "Help me get her on the table," Jiwan interrupted. They worked quickly. Jiwan cut away the strange material of her clothing, revealing more injuries than he had initially seen. Burns, lacerations, and what looked like broken ribs on her left side. But the worst were her hearts. Through his stethoscope, Ji-won could hear them struggling, beating out of sync with each other. Her biology is partially compatible, Ji-won muttered, checking readouts from the scanner. Oxygen-based blood, similar organ structure, but these dual hearts. If one fails, the other might follow. Can you save her? Do-yoon asked quietly. Ji-won looked at his friend, then back at the alien girl on his table. Her wolf ears twitched again, and he noticed how soft they looked, despite being matted with blood. She was someone's daughter, maybe someone's sister. She had crashed here alone, terrified, and badly hurt. And now, she was his responsibility. I'm going to try, Ji-won said, pulling on his surgical gloves. I'm going to try everything. The surgery lasted 6 hours. Ji-won repaired torn blood vessels using techniques he had never attempted on an alien physiology. He set her broken ribs with careful precision. He cleaned and closed her wounds with hands that never shook, even as exhaustion pulled at him. All the while, her 2 hearts beat beneath his fingers, sometimes together, sometimes apart, always fragile. As dawn light crept through the clinic windows, Ji-won finally stepped back from the table. The wolf girl's breathing had stabilized. Her hearts were beating stronger now, almost in rhythm. She would live, at least for now. Do-yoon had fallen asleep in a chair, but Ji-won couldn't rest. He pulled up a stool beside the operating table and just watched his patient. In the soft morning light, he could see her features clearly. She was young, maybe early 20s, in human years. Her face was both fierce and gentle, with high cheekbones and a small nose. Even unconscious and injured, she looked strong. Her ears twitched in her sleep, and Ji-won found himself smiling despite his exhaustion. He had just thrown away his career, defied his governor, and possibly started a diplomatic incident. But looking at this alien girl breathing peacefully on his table, he knew he would make the same choice again. "Welcome to New Meridian," he whispered. "I hope we treat you better than your arrival suggests." Outside, he could hear vehicles approaching. Security, no doubt, coming to arrest him or take his patient. But Ji-won didn't move. He stayed beside the wolf girl, one hand near her wrist where he could feel her pulse. Whatever came next, he would face it, because some things mattered more than rules. Some things mattered more than everything. 3 days passed before she opened her eyes. Ji-won had barely left her side during that time. He monitored her vital signs every hour, adjusted medications, and fought off 2 attempts by colony security to remove her from his clinic. Officer Minji had been particularly persistent, standing outside with her hand always near her weapon, watching everything with suspicious eyes. But Do-yoon had helped. His friend brought food, covered for Ji-won at the main hospital, and even stood between the doctor and the security officers when tensions ran high. "He's following his oath," Do-yoon had said calmly. "You can arrest him later, after she's stable." Now, in the quiet of early morning, Ji-won was checking the wolf girl's bandages when her eyes suddenly opened. They were golden, like honey catching sunlight, and they were filled with pure terror. She moved fast. Faster than Ji-won thought possible for someone so injured. One moment she was lying still. The next she had grabbed his wrist with surprising strength and bared her teeth at him. A low growl came from her throat, and her ears lay flat against her head in clear aggression. "Wait, wait," Ji-won said, holding his other hand up in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "I'm not going to hurt you. I'm a doctor. I helped you." But she didn't understand. Of course she didn't. Her golden eyes darted around the clinic, taking in the medical equipment, the locked door, the windows with their security bars. To her, this must look like a prison. She tried to stand, but pain made her gasp and collapse back onto the bed. Ji-won kept his voice soft and calm. "Please, you're still healing. You had surgery. You need to rest." The wolf girl watched him with those intense golden eyes, her breathing fast and shallow. Her tail lashed beneath the blanket. But she didn't attack again. Maybe she saw something in his face that told her he meant no harm. Or maybe she was just too weak to fight. Slowly, carefully, Jiwon reached for the translator device on the nearby table. It was standard colony equipment, designed to work with most known languages in the galaxy. He just hoped her species was in the database. He activated the device and spoke clearly. "My name is Jiwon. I am a doctor. You crashed here 3 days ago. I performed surgery to save your life. Do you understand me?" The device hummed, processing his words and converting them into something else. A series of soft barks and whines that sounded almost like speech. The wolf girl's ears perked up immediately. Her eyes widened in surprise. Then she spoke, and the translator converted her words back to human language. "You saved me?" Her voice was rough from disuse, but there was intelligence and emotion in it. "Yes," Jiwon said, allowing himself a small smile. "You were badly injured, but you're going to be okay." She looked down at herself, at the bandages covering her body, at the IV line in her arm, delivering fluids and medicine. Her hand went to her chest, feeling the steady beat of her two hearts. When she looked back up at Jiwon, confusion had replaced some of the fear in her eyes. "Why?" she asked. "Why save an enemy?" "Enemy?" Jiwon shook his head. "You're not my enemy. You're a person who needed help." The wolf girl stared at him for a long moment, as if trying to understand a concept that made no sense to her. Then, slowly, her tense posture relaxed slightly. Her ears came up a bit, no longer pressed flat in fear. "My name is Hana," she said quietly. "I am a scout of the Lupin Conclave. My ship was damaged in battle. I tried to jump to hyperspace, but the engines failed." She looked away, and her voice became even softer. "My squadron. They're all dead." Jiwon felt his chest tighten at the pain in her words. He had treated enough trauma victims to recognize grief when he saw it. "I'm sorry," he said simply. "I'm truly sorry." Hana's tail curled around herself, a gesture of comfort. "You humans. Your medical skills. They are very advanced. My people do not have such technology. We would have let me die with honor rather than attempt what you did." "Well, I'm glad I'm human then," Jiwon said with a slight smile. "Because I don't believe in letting anyone die when I can prevent it." Over the next few hours, Jiwon learned more about Hana and her people. The Lupins were a warrior race, strong and fast, with enhanced senses that put humans to shame, but they had focused on physical prowess and spiritual development rather than technology. They were being hunted by a species called the Swarm, an insectoid race that consumed everything in its path. "The Swarm is why I was scouting this sector," Hana explained, accepting the water Jiwon offered her. "They are spreading. Your colony might be in danger." Jiwon frowned. "I should tell the governor this." "Your pack leader already wants me dead," Hana said bitterly. "She will not listen." She was probably right. Jiwon had been officially suspended from his position at the main hospital. Governor Sujin had made it clear that as soon as Hana was stable enough to move, she would be taken into custody for questioning. Or worse. A knock at the door made them both tense. Jiwon opened it to find Minji standing there, her uniform crisp and her expression stern. "Dr. Jiwon," she said formally. "I need to speak with you, privately." Jiwon glanced back at Hana, who had pulled the blanket up defensively. He stepped outside, closing the door behind him. "Officer Minji," he began, but she held up a hand. "I've been investigating you," she said bluntly. "For 3 days, I've been trying to figure out what you're hiding, and now, I know." She paused, her eyes hard. "You're protecting an alien that could be a threat to this entire colony." "She's not a threat," Jiwon insisted. "She's a refugee. And she has information about a real threat that's coming. That's not your decision to make, Doctor." "Then whose decision is it?" Jiwon's frustration boiled over. "The governor who wanted to let her die without even checking if she was intelligent?" The security team that was ready to shoot first and ask questions never? When did we become the kind of humans who turn away from people in need? 2. Minji's expression flickered, something uncertain crossing her face. But before she could respond, a scream came from inside the clinic. Ji-won burst back through the door to find Hana sitting up in bed, both hands pressed to her head, her whole body shaking. Her ears were pressed flat, and her eyes were wide with panic. "Hana!" Ji-won rushed to her side. "What's wrong?" "My pack," she gasped. "I can't feel them anymore. The bond. It's gone. They're really gone. I'm alone. I'm completely alone." She began to hyperventilate, her two hearts racing dangerously fast on the monitor. Ji-won recognized a panic attack when he saw one. He grabbed her hands, gently, but firmly. "Listen to me," he said, his voice steady and calm. "Breathe with me. In through your nose, out through your mouth. You're safe here. I've got you." Hana's golden eyes locked onto his, desperate for an anchor. Slowly, she began to match his breathing. In and out. Steady and calm. Her hearts gradually slowed back to a safer rhythm. "That's it," Ji-won encouraged. "You're doing great." It took almost 20 minutes, but eventually Hana's panic subsided. She slumped against Ji-won, exhausted and embarrassed. He didn't push her away. He just sat there on the edge of her bed, letting her lean on him. Behind them, Minji watched silently from the doorway. When Ji-won finally looked back at her, he saw something different in her expression. Understanding. Maybe. Or at least, the beginning of it. "I'll file my report tomorrow," Minji said quietly. Then she left. As the door closed, Hana spoke softly against Ji-won's shoulder. "Why do you care so much?" "I am nothing to you." Ji-won thought about his answer carefully. Then he said something that felt true and important. "Maybe that's what makes us human. We care anyway." In the quiet that followed, he felt Hana's tail brush against his leg. Just once. A small gesture. But it felt like trust. 2 weeks passed, and Hana grew stronger each day. Her recovery amazed Ji-won. The Lupin healing factor was remarkable, far beyond human capability. Wounds that should have taken months to heal were closing in days. Her broken ribs had already mended. Even the burns were fading to thin scars beneath her silver fur. But her spirit was slower to heal. She had tried to contact her people through her ship's emergency beacon, only to discover it had been destroyed in the crash. No one knew she was alive. No one was coming to rescue her. She was stranded on a human colony world, alone among aliens. Ji-won found her sitting by the window one morning, staring out at the purple sky of New Meridian. Her ears drooped, and her tail lay still. The translator device sat on the windowsill beside her. "Good morning," Ji-won said gently. Hana turned, and he saw she had been crying. Blue tears, matching her blue blood, stained her cheeks. "Is it?" she asked quietly. "A good morning?" Ji-won sat down beside her without asking permission. Over the past 2 weeks, they had fallen into an easy rhythm. He had learned to read her body language, the way her ears and tail betrayed her emotions, even when her face stayed neutral, and she had learned to trust him. Slowly letting down the walls of a warrior trained never to show weakness. "I know you miss your home," Ji-won said, "but you're not completely alone. You have me, and Do-yun. We're your friends." "Friends," Hana repeated the word, testing it. "The Lupin have pack. Family. Bonds of blood and spirit. But friends?" She looked at him curiously. "This is different?" "Yes," Ji-won said. "Friends are family you choose. People who care about you, not because they have to, but because they want to." Hana was quiet for a moment, processing this. Then, so softly he almost missed it, she said, "I would choose you." Ji-won's heart did something strange in his chest. Before he could respond, his comm device buzzed. It was Do-yun. calling from the main hospital. Ji-won, I need you to come in. We have a patient with an irregular heartbeat, and I can't figure out what's wrong. Can you? Do-yoon paused. Can you bring Hana? Bring Hana? Ji-won was confused. Why? Just trust me, please. When they arrived at the hospital, several staff members stared at Hana with wide eyes. She walked close to Ji-won, her tail tucked nervously, but she held her head high with warrior pride. Do-yoon met them in the hallway and led them to a patient room where an elderly woman lay in bed, monitors beeping irregularly. Mrs. Kim has an arrhythmia, Do-yoon explained. But the monitors aren't picking up the pattern clearly. I can't figure out where it's originating. Hana stepped closer to the bed, her ears swiveling forward in concentration. She tilted her head, listening. Then, her eyes widened. There, she said, pointing to a specific spot on the woman's chest. The beat is wrong there, not matching the rest. Ji-won pulled out his stethoscope and listened where Hana had indicated. She was right. There was an anomaly, subtle, but definitely present. He adjusted the monitor leads based on Hana's guidance, and suddenly the readings became clear. Atrial fibrillation, originating from the superior vena cava, Ji-won said with surprise. I wouldn't have found that without more extensive testing. How did you? My hearing, Hana explained simply. I can hear what your machines cannot. Word spread quickly through the hospital. The alien wolf girl had extraordinary diagnostic abilities. Within days, Do-yoon was quietly bringing Hana in to consult on difficult cases. She could hear blockages in blood vessels, detect fluid building in lungs before it showed on scans, even identify infections by the slight changes in a patient's breathing. She saved 3 lives in the first week alone. Ji-won watched with pride as Hana found purpose again. Her ears no longer drooped. Her tail had a slight wag when she successfully diagnosed something. She was healing. Not just physically, but emotionally. They fell into a new routine. Morning rounds at the clinic, afternoon consultations at the hospital, and evenings back at Ji-won's clinic, where Hana was still officially staying. Ji-won began teaching her about human medicine, and she taught him about Lupin culture. They shared meals, usually simple food, that Ji-won cooked, since Hana found human cuisine strange but interesting. One evening, Ji-won was making dinner when he heard music coming from the other room. He found Hana sitting in front of his old music player, her eyes closed, her ears perked up in fascination. She was listening to classical human music, completely absorbed. This is beautiful, she said when she noticed him. Lupins have howling songs. But this is something else. All these different sounds working together. Her tail swayed gently in time with the music. Ji-won smiled. It's called an orchestra. Lots of instruments playing in harmony. Harmony, Hana repeated. Like a pack, but with sounds instead of hearts. She looked up at him, and in her golden eyes, he saw something warm and soft. You humans make beautiful things. So do Lupins, Ji-won said, sitting beside her. You told me about your sculpture gardens, your poetry carved in living trees. They sat together as the music played, not talking, just sharing the moment. Ji-won noticed how natural it felt to be near her now, how he looked forward to seeing her each morning, how his day felt incomplete if they didn't have their evening conversations. But the peace couldn't last. The attack came without warning. Ji-won was at the main hospital when alarms started blaring. A mining outpost on the edge of the colony had gone dark. When security sent a team to investigate, they found carnage. The miners were dead, the buildings destroyed, and strange organic material was growing over everything. Ji-won rushed back to his clinic where Hana was waiting. She took one look at the images on his datapad, and her ears flattened against her head. The swarm, she said, her voice filled with dread. They're here. Within hours, Governor Sujin declared a colony-wide emergency. Military Commander Tae-hyung mobilized all defense forces, and Officer Minji showed up at Ji-won's clinic with a squad of armed guards. The governor wants to see the alien, Minji said, her expression apologetic but firm. Now, Hana stepped forward before Ji-won could protest. I will go, she said calmly. I warned you this would happen. Now your leaders must listen. They took her to the colony command center, a fortified building in the heart of the settlement. Ji-won insisted on coming along. And, surprisingly, no one stopped him. In the main briefing room, Governor Sujin stood with Commander Tae-hung, studying holographic displays of the destroyed mining outpost. Both turned to stare as Hana entered. So, Governor Sujin said coldly, the alien, our doctor insists on protecting. You're going to tell us that you warned us about this? Yes, Hana said simply. The swarm consumes everything. They have destroyed dozens of worlds. They were hunting my people. Now they have found you. Commander Tae-young leaned forward. Can they be fought? Yes. But not the way you are thinking. Hana approached the holographic display, her tail swishing with nervous energy. The swarm uses numbers and aggression. They expect enemies to stand and fight. But they are not intelligent like us. They are like insects. Following instinct. So what do we do? Tae-young asked, and Ji-won noticed the commander's tone had shifted from hostile to respectful. Hana began explaining swarm tactics, their weaknesses, their patterns. As she spoke, Ji-won saw the humans in the room start to lean in, to listen seriously. This wolf girl who they had wanted to imprison or kill was now their greatest expert on the threat they faced. But Ji-won also noticed Minji standing by the door, speaking quietly into her comm device. Something was wrong. He could feel it. We need to fortify the perimeter, Hana was saying. Create choke points where their numbers work against them. Use fire. They hate fire. And their hive ships have a weak point near the main. The lights went out. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in red light. Alarms screamed. And on the holographic display, Ji-won saw something that made his blood run cold. Dozens of swarm signals, appearing all around the colony. They're here, Tae-young said, his voice tight. Full assault. This is not a scouting party. Governor Sujin turned to Hana. And for the first time, Ji-won saw fear in the governor's eyes. You said they can be fought. Can we win? Hana's ears were flat against her head. But she stood tall. If you trust me. If you fight smart, instead of strong. If you work together like a pack instead of individuals. She paused, her golden eyes sweeping across the room. Then yes, you humans can survive this. Then help us, Sujin said. Hana looked at Ji-won. Their eyes met across the red-lit room. In that moment, he saw her making a choice. She could let these humans face the swarm alone, pay back for their distrust and hostility. Or, she could help them. Despite everything, she turned back to the governor and nodded once. I will fight beside you. As the room erupted into action, people rushing to battle stations, Ji-won grabbed Hana's hand. Be careful, he said urgently. Her ears perked up slightly, and her tail gave a small wag. Worry is a pack feeling, she said softly. Are you claiming me as pack, Dr. Ji-won? Before he could answer, explosions rocked the building. The swarm had reached the colony's outer defenses. The battle had begun. The swarm came like a living nightmare. Through the command center windows, Ji-won could see them pouring across the colony's defensive perimeter. They looked like massive insects, each one the size of a human, with black, chitinous armor and razor-sharp mandibles. They moved as one unit, thousands of them, driven by a single hive mind that knew only hunger and destruction. All defense teams to your positions, Commander Tae-young's voice boomed through the comm system. Hold the line at sectors 3 and 7, but the human defenders were struggling. Their weapons killed individual swarm creatures, but more just kept coming. The defensive barriers that should have held were being overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Ji-won watched the tactical display with growing horror as red enemy markers flooded the map. Hana stood beside Taehyung, her ears swiveling as she listened to the battle reports. "They are fighting wrong," she said urgently. "Too spread out. The swarm will break through at the weak points. What do you suggest?" Taehyung asked. He had accepted Hana's expertise quickly. A military man who recognized useful intelligence when he heard it. "Pull back to the secondary line," Hana said, manipulating the holographic display with surprising skill. "Create a funnel. Here. And here. Force them to come at you through narrow passages. Their numbers become a disadvantage when they cannot spread out." "That's a tactical retreat," Governor Sujin protested. "We'll lose ground." "You will lose everything if you stay scattered," Hana shot back, her tail lashing with frustration. "Trust me or do not, but decide now. The swarm will not wait." Taehyung looked at the governor, then at Hana, then made his decision. "All units, fall back to secondary defensive positions. Form up at rally points Alpha through Delta. Move." The humans retreated in organized groups, and Ji-won watched as Hana's strategy took effect. The swarm, following their instinctive drive to pursue, flooded into the narrow passages between buildings. There, trapped by their own numbers, they became easy targets for concentrated fire. "It's working," Taehyung said with surprise and respect. "They're bottlenecked. For now," Hana warned. "But the swarm learns. They will adapt. You need to keep changing tactics." For the next hour, it became a deadly dance. Hana would suggest a strategy. The humans would execute it, and they would gain precious ground. But each time, the swarm would adjust, finding new ways to attack. It was like playing chess against an opponent with 1,000 pieces. Ji-won stayed in the command center, feeling useless. He was a doctor, not a soldier. But then, casualties started arriving at the medical station, set up in the building's lower level. Burns, lacerations from swarm mandibles, broken bones from cave-ins. He found his purpose again. "I need to go help," he told Hana. She turned to him, her golden eyes worried. "Stay safe, Ji-won." "You too," he said. And then he was running down to the medical station. The wounded kept coming. Ji-won worked alongside other medical staff, treating injuries as fast as he could. The swarm's weapons were brutal, designed to tear and rend. He saw things that would give him nightmares later. But right now, there was no time for horror, only for helping. Then the building shook with an explosion. "Swarm breach on level 2, someone shouted over the comm. "They're inside the building." Ji-won's hands froze for just a moment. The command center was on level 3. Hana was up there. But he had patients here, who would die if he left them. The decision was torn from him when a section of ceiling collapsed. Swarm creatures poured through the gap, their mandibles clicking, their multiple eyes focused on the humans below. Medical staff screamed and ran, but there was nowhere to go. Ji-won grabbed a piece of debris and stood in front of his patients. It was a stupid, hopeless gesture. He was one man, with no weapon facing monsters designed for killing. But he was a doctor, and he would not abandon his patients. The lead swarm creature reared up, ready to strike. Then Hana was there. She moved like lightning, faster than Ji-won had ever seen her move. Her hands, which had been so gentle when examining patients, now had claws extended. She hit the swarm creature with incredible force, her warrior training evident in every move. The creature went down, and she was already moving to the next one. But there were too many. Even with her speed and strength, even with her warrior skills, Hana could not fight them all. Ji-won saw her take a hit to her side, blue blood spraying. She stumbled but kept fighting, her ears flat, her teeth bared in a snarl of defiance. "Hana!" Ji-won shouted. Security teams arrived then, their weapons firing, driving the swarm creatures back. But Ji-won only had eyes for Hana, who had collapsed against a wall, her hand pressed to the wound in her side. He ran to her, his medical training overriding everything else. "Let me see." "The patients," Hana gasped. Are they? They're fine because of you. Now shut up and let me work. Jiwon's hands moved quickly, assessing the damage. The swarm mandible had cut deep, and blue blood was flowing too fast. He needed to get her to a surgical suite. I can't lose you, he said, not meaning to say it out loud. Hana's ears perked up despite her pain. Her golden eyes focused on his face. Why? Because. Jiwon pressed harder on the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. Because you matter. You matter to me. More than I realized until right now. Jiwon. Hana whispered. And there was something in her voice that made his heart race. But there was no time. More swarm creatures were breaking through. The security teams were being pushed back. Jiwon made a decision. He picked Hana up, ignoring her protest, and carried her toward the emergency stairs. They needed to get to the upper levels, to safety. Put me down, Hana said. You can barely stand. For once, let someone take care of you. They made it to level 3, where Commander Tae-young was coordinating the defense from multiple screens. The situation had gotten worse. Swarm creatures were breaking through at multiple points. The human forces were exhausted and running low on ammunition. We need a new plan, Tae-young said grimly. Or we need to evacuate. No. Hana pushed herself up despite her wound, despite Jiwon's protests. She limped to the tactical display, her mind clearly working despite the pain. What do you mean? Governor Sujin asked. My people would fight with honor. Stand and face the enemy. Die with dignity if necessary. Hana's ears were forward now. Focused. But you, humans, you are tricky. You adapt. You use whatever works, even if it is not honorable. She looked at them with something like admiration. Use that. Fight like humans, not like lupins. What do you suggest? Tae-young asked. Hana outlined a plan that was clever, dangerous, and completely crazy. It involved using the colony's mining explosives, collapsing sections of the defensive wall to trap large groups of swarm creatures, and then using the refinery's industrial equipment as improvised weapons. It was not how any military manual said to fight. It was messy and desperate and brilliant. That might actually work, Tae-young said slowly. It will work, Hana insisted. Because humans do not give up. You find ways to win, even when you should lose. I have seen it. She looked at Jiwon. He saved my life when it should have been impossible. That is what humans do. The plan was set in motion. Jiwon stayed with Hana, performing emergency field surgery right there in the command center, while the battle raged outside. His hands were steady as he stitched her wound closed, even as explosions shook the building. You know, Hana said through gritted teeth. In Lupin culture, when someone saves your life multiple times, it creates a bond. A heart bond. Oh? Jiwon said, trying to keep his voice steady. What kind of bond? Oh, the kind where... Hana paused, her breathing hitching with pain or emotion, or both. The kind where my heart beats for them. Both my hearts. Only for them. Jiwon's hands stopped moving for just a second. He looked into her golden eyes and saw the truth there. She was not just talking about gratitude or friendship. Hana, he said softly. I know I am an alien, she continued, the words coming faster now like she needed to say them before she lost her courage. I know I am strange to you, but these weeks with you, learning from you, laughing with you, you made me forget I was alone. You made me feel like I had a pack again, like I had. She looked away, her ears drooping. Like I had home. Cha. Jiwon finished the last stitch and set down his instruments. Then he took her face gently in his hands, making her look at him. You're not strange. You're remarkable. And brave. And kind. And yes, you have a home. With me, if you want it. Hana's eyes went wide. Her tail, which had been still, began to wag slowly. You feel it too? I feel it too, Ji-won confirmed. Outside, the human forces were executing Hana's plan. Explosions rocked the colony as mining charges detonated in sequence, collapsing buildings onto swarm forces. Industrial mining equipment, never designed as weapons, crushed through swarm lines. And the human defenders, inspired by the alien who had helped them, fought with renewed determination. The tide was turning. In the command center, Ji-won held Hana as they watched the battle through the windows. Her head rested against his shoulder, careful of her injury. His hand stroked her ears gently, making them twitch in a way he now knew meant contentment. "We are going to win," Hana murmured. "Your people are going to survive." "Our people," Ji-won corrected gently. Hana's tail wagged harder. "I want to be." The battle lasted through the night. But when dawn came, the swarm was retreating. The human defenders had held. The colony had survived. The morning after the battle, New Meridian looked like a war zone. Buildings were damaged, streets were torn up, and the defensive walls had huge sections missing. But the colony stood. The humans had survived, and they had done it with help from an alien they had once feared. Ji-won walked through the medical center, checking on patients. He had been working for 36 hours straight, but adrenaline and determination kept him going. Hana was beside him, her wound freshly bandaged, refusing to rest despite his protests. "You should be in bed," he told her for the 5th time. "So should you," she replied, her ears perking up with amusement. They shared a smile, and Ji-won felt warmth spread through his chest. Even exhausted, even surrounded by the aftermath of battle, being near Hana made him feel complete in a way he had never experienced before. Governor Sujin found them in the recovery ward. The governor looked tired and older than she had a week ago, but there was something different in her expression. Respect, maybe, or shame. "Dr. Ji-won, Hana," Sujin said formally. "I owe you both an apology. I was wrong about you, about what you were doing. You saved this colony." Hana tilted her head, considering. "You were protecting your pack. I understand that instinct. Still, I should have listened sooner." Sujin turned to address some of the other people who had gathered. Medical staff, security officers, civilians who had helped during the battle. "We're holding a ceremony this afternoon to honor those who defended the colony. Hana, I would like to offer you formal asylum and citizenship in New Meridian, if you want it." Hana's ears went straight up in surprise. Her tail began wagging. "You would accept me? As one of your own? You fought for us, bled for us, saved us." Sujin's voice was firm. "That makes you one of us, if you want to be." The crowd that had gathered began to clap. Slowly at first, then louder. Ji-won saw tears forming in Hana's golden eyes, and he took her hand, squeezing gently. She looked at him, and he nodded encouragement. "I accept," Hana said, her voice thick with emotion. "I would be honored to call New Meridian my home." The ceremony that afternoon was simple but moving. Commander Tae-hyung presented Hana with a colony citizenship medal, and she stood tall and proud despite her injury. Ji-won watched from the crowd, his heart swelling with pride. This was the woman who had crashed onto their world as a stranger and enemy. Now she was being celebrated as a hero. But the most important moment came 3 days later. Ji-won was in his clinic, reorganizing supplies that had been scattered during the battle, when his comm device chimed. It was a priority signal, the kind used for official government communications. He answered to find not Governor Sujin, but a face he didn't recognize. A face with wolf ears and silver fur. "Greetings, human," the alien said through the translator. "I am Commander Hyun of the Lupin Conclave. We received a distress beacon from this sector. We are searching for one of our scouts. Her name is Hana." Ji-won's heart started racing. He called for Hana, who came running from the other room. When she saw the Lupin commander on the screen, she froze. "Commander Hyun," she whispered. "Hana!" You live. The commander's stern expression broke into relief. We thought you lost with the others. How did you survive? No. Hana glanced at Jiwon, then back to the screen. I was saved. By a human doctor. He gave me a second life. Over the next hour, Hana explained everything to her commander. The crash, the surgery, the battle with the swarm, and how the humans of New Meridian had fought alongside her. Commander Hyun listened with growing amazement. These humans sound remarkable, Hyun said. We will need to establish formal contact with them. This could be the beginning of an alliance. He paused, his expression becoming gentler. And you, Hana? You have completed your mission. Your duty. You may return home now. The fleet will arrive in 2 days to bring you back to the conclave. Hana's ears drooped. Her tail went still. She looked at Jiwon with such sadness that it made his chest hurt. She began, then stopped. May I have time to think, Commander? Of course, you have earned that right. The transmission ended. The clinic fell silent. Jiwon and Hana stood, looking at each other, neither knowing what to say. Finally, Hana spoke. My people are coming for me. Yes, Jiwon said quietly. I could go home, return to my pack, my life, everything I knew before. Yes, but I do not want to. The words came out in a rush. Is that wrong? Is it betraying my people to want to stay here? With you? Jiwon crossed the distance between them and took her hands. Hana, I won't ask you to stay. I want you to be happy, even if that means leaving. That's what loving someone means. Wanting what's best for them, even if it hurts you. Loving? Hana's ears perked up. You love me? Of course I love you. Jiwon said it like it was the most obvious thing in the world. How could I not? You're brave and smart and kind. You make me laugh. You make me want to be a better doctor, a better person. He trailed off, emotion choking his voice. You make me complete. Hana pulled her hands free, and for a moment Jiwon thought he had said too much, pushed too hard. But then, she grabbed his face and kissed him. It was awkward at first, human lips meeting alien ones, but they figured it out. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Hana's tail was wagging so hard it was almost a blur. My heart's beat for you, she said. Both of them. Only for you. That is the Lupin way of saying what you just said. I love you, Jiwon. I choose you. I choose this life, this world, this pack of humans who took in a lost wolf. But your people will understand. Hana's voice was firm. Lupin's honor choice. It is one of our oldest laws, and I choose to stay. If you will have me. Understand. If I'll have you. Jiwon laughed, pulling her close despite the bandages and the exhaustion. Hana, I'll have you for as long as you want to stay. Forever, if possible. They stood together in the quiet clinic, holding each other, 2 hearts beating against 2 more. Outside, the colony was rebuilding. Inside, something new was being built too. A bridge between species, a bond between souls, a love that crossed the stars. 2 days later, when the Lupin fleet arrived, Commander Hyun was surprised to find Hana had chosen to remain on New Meridian. But he was also impressed. The humans had not only saved one of his scouts, they had shown a capacity for compassion and innovation that the Lupins respected. We would like to establish a formal relationship with your colony, Hyun told Governor Sujin. An alliance, perhaps. Trade. Cultural exchange. Mutual defense against the swarm. We would be honored, Sujin replied. And we have Hana to thank for opening this door. You have your doctor to thank. Hyun corrected with a slight smile. One human choosing to save one alien has changed the course of history for both our peoples. That is quite something. The colony celebrated that night. Humans and the visiting Lupins shared food and stories. Doyun gave Jiwon a congratulatory punch on the shoulder, that nearly knocked him over. Officer Minji actually smiled at Hana and thanked her for her service. Even Governor Sujin seemed relaxed, talking with the Lupin ambassadors about future cooperation. Jiwon and Hana slipped away from the celebration to stand on the clinic's roof, looking up at the stars. Hana's tail was wrapped around Jiwon's leg in what he had learned was a Lupin gesture of intimacy and trust. "You know," Jiwon said, "we should probably start a proper xenobiology program here. Study how different species can work together, medically and otherwise. We could help a lot of people." Hana's ears perked up with interest. "We? Well, you're the best diagnostician I've ever worked with. And you know Lupin biology better than any human. We'd make a good team." We'd make a good team. "We already are a good team," Hana said, leaning against him. "In medicine, in battle, in life. So that's a yes to starting a research center together?" "That is a yes to everything together," Hana replied. She pulled out a small device, and Jiwon recognized it as a medical scanner. "Give me your hand." Puzzled, he complied. Hana pressed the scanner to his wrist, and he saw his heartbeat appear on the small screen. One steady rhythm. Then she pressed it to her own wrist, and two rhythms appeared, her dual hearts, beating slightly offset from each other. "Watch," she said softly. As they stood together, Jiwon saw something amazing happen. Slowly, her two heartbeats began to sync up, and then, even more remarkably, they began to match his rhythm. 3 hearts, beating as one. "In Lupin biology," Hana explained, "when we bond with a mate, our hearts literally synchronize with theirs. It is physical proof of the connection between souls." She looked up at him, her golden eyes reflecting the starlight. "You saved my life, Jiwon. I gave you my hearts. Fair trade." "Doctor?" Jiwon pulled her close, feeling those synchronized heartbeats against his chest. "More than fair," he whispered. "So much more than fair." Above them, a ship departed from the Lupin fleet, carrying ambassadors back to the conclave with news of the alliance. More ships arrived over the following weeks, not just Lupin but other species who had heard about the human colony that had defeated the swarm and welcomed aliens as equals. New Meridian became a hub, a meeting place for different species. And at the center of it all was a small xenobiology research center, run by a human doctor and his Lupin partner. They saved lives together, built understanding together, and loved each other in a way that proved the best of both their species. Humanity had reached for the stars and found not just new worlds, but new families. They had shown the galaxy that their greatest weapon was not technology or tactics, but the simple, radical choice to care, to see a crashed alien and decide to save her, to look at someone different and see not a threat, but a person worth knowing. One human choosing compassion over fear had changed everything. And in a quiet clinic on a colony world, 2 hearts continued to beat for each other, proof that love could cross any distance, bridge any difference, and build homes in the strangest places. The wolf girl who had crashed on a human world had found her pack. The human doctor who had saved her had found his heart. And the galaxy would never be quite the same.